Project managers and managers need to understand how to put together teams, their unique skills, and the value proposition necessary for the company to survive. How to do that? By using something called Disciplined Agile. If you're organizing your team or creating a solution, Disciplined Agile building blocks can help you put together the right combination for your product, project, and outcomes. The 4 building blocks of Designed Agile can be broken down into these: business value, solution type, agile approach, and team structure. Project managers often think about things like scope, budget, and time. And if they're really good, they might also include quality. But today's advanced needs for business outcomes means that we need to be thinking about the business outcomes. That's what project managers should also be doing. So in this model, I'd like to show you the 4 types of meta-level business outcomes. Every project, every department, and every team should be clear about what value they're bringing to the organization. So let's take a look at these 4 models to determine which one might be right for your project. First, we have minimum viable product. MVP is well known for creation of apps. You want to have minimal effort, maximum outcome, get it out to the marketplace so it can be tested by the users, and you can get immediate feedback on adoption, usability, and what needs to be in your next phase of that product. So the next one is minimum viable process. This value is focused on creating the best possible process with the minimum number of steps. Something simple, easy to understand, easy to implement, and easy to innovate. A great way of testing MVP is through design thinking or collective intelligence. Now we move on to minimum viable market. This identifies the target segment of the market that could provide meaningful validation of the product's value or proposition. If you're building a new widget, you need to know in a test market scenario if you have buyers. You could say the world is your oyster, but that's not true. You're not marketing to everybody because you can't be all things to everyone. How do you make sure you create value? By focusing on who your key market is. Last, we have minimum viable value. Ensures that the smallest deliverable increment of the product provides genuine value to the customer. Knowing the minimum viable value you're trying to bring to your project, department, team, or product solution will help you identify the KPIs you need to succeed. Value models do one more thing. They create a sense of the execution path, how you're going to execute on that value statement. If you want to know more about value models, check out my links below to my blog. I've got the models there for you and more details on the case studies that help you figure out which model is right for you and which KPI could be linked to those models. Now we go to the next block, solution. Understanding the kind of solution you're creating can help you understand that value proposition, but more, it can help you figure out the kind of team you want to bring, how you want to organize that team, the kind of skill sets you need, the length of time you need those skills for, etc. You might have a technology solution, a process flow change, a product idea or concept. That's that widget idea I talked about earlier. You might have a physical asset. Maybe you're building a bridge or designing a new hotel. Maybe your content is IP based. Maybe you're creating intellectual property for something like Skillshare. And you might be focused on solutions related to people. That could be how you hire, onboard, manage knowledge management. All of these have to do with your people solution. And each of these solutions have a particular way of working that fits best, and a process, an agile process that fits best for them. So which way of working is best when you're talking about disciplined agile? Well, first of all, we have Agile, which is the approach best used when solutions require flexibility and the team can be self-managed. The pros of that are that they're team-driven, they're collaborative, they have a common way of working that many people are familiar with. The Agile process isn't focused on documentation, it's focused on build, which means when you hand over to operations, there can be some issues. Because of the nature of sprints, the actual outcome and timing can be unknowable. Continuous Agile, that's more process-based. This is when the approach establishes a streamlined, iterative life cycle based on a stable, cross-functional team focused on rapid and frequent releases. It's agile, but optimized. This works really well if you happen to work in a process industry. For instance, something where you're continually manufacturing the same item, but you want to improve the processes along the way. You can become very minimum viable process focused. So that is those small incremental changes that create that 1% opportunity for improvement, either reducing costs or increasing revenue. And because it's based on a common way of working, it's easy to train and your team has a common language for how things work. Continuous delivery Agile also has some cons. Something similar to what we already see with Agile. Not enough documentation, not enough clarity on timing, and difficult to transfer to operations. And of course, in these situations, you can mitigate the cons by actually creating a work stream for documentation, for handover, and create that solution based on the value you're trying to create. And the final is exploration. This is the unknown unknowns, right? You're creating that widget, you're creating IP or an idea, and you don't know how long it will take. You don't even know exactly what you're building potentially. You might know your ultimate user and you might know the kind of problem you're trying to solve, but how you're solving that problem may not be completely clear. So this kind of process helps you focus on what exactly is your best value outcome. The pros of this are you're very tied into customer empathy and you're minimum viable market focused. You are focused on understanding the pain point of a segment of your market. Of course, there are cons to exploratory too. The number one is scope creep. You'll never be done because you can't find the borders of what done looks like. That's a real problem in any kind of ideation or IP creation. Again, you have an issue with time. You have variable time to complete, so you're not sure when you're going to go to market, so the value can be eroded because you don't know when you're going to market. And you have change management risk, kind of related to not knowing the borders of done. Change management risks mean you're constantly updating. Have you ever watched one of those house building shows where they say, no, this is the model, this is the design we're going to go with, but they constantly are changing and 7 years later they're still building their house? If you're working on a product where you're doing exploratory, be careful not to fall into that trap. Now we have options about lean way of working. In the lean model, we go from lean to continuous lean to program. Lean is driven by eliminating waste and adding value to customers to maximize the value. It's trying to reduce delays and increase efficiency. The pros are it's customer-centric, minimum viable value focused, and focuses on working in the flow, failing fast. Lean can do all of those things, but here are the risks. It's process over creativity. If you're trying to create a new idea, lean may not give you the space to do that. It has a lack of speed and adaptability. It's so focused on efficiency, it may not be effective. And depending on the industry, it could demand more team training because not everyone's familiar with the lean processes. We have continuous delivery lean, which is like continuous delivery agile, emphasizes the process focus on testing, integration, and deploying frequent and reliable releases. It optimizes the outcomes. And that means the team is constantly working in a deploy state. It's really minimum viable process focused. It improves quality and sustainability because you're in the flow. But the cons are change fatigue. The constant deployment means that your team never catches their breath, can never go back and fix things that are kind of architecturally maybe wrong with the situation, and also may never get a chance to sit back and think outside the box. And then we have program. Program is aligned to how departments and teams work. So this is a comprehensive approach to managing complexity and interdependencies, facilitating better alignment and quality control. Something work in departments and teams constantly need to focus on, keeping their work up to speed, up to quality levels. The pros here are teams are optimized, teams are engaged, and teams create this collaborative knowledge sharing environment, which is very powerful. The cons are it can be expensive to start up, expensive to maintain, requires a long-term stable team in place because that knowledge management and culture is something that managers have to create and teams have to build over time. And also, it can create, again, this implementation fatigue because it's a kind of lean. We do the most important optimized things and we don't do some of the other things. And those things can be missing over time. You can actually find that gaps arise over time where you need to do that maintenance on the underlying processes and foundational ways of working that you're not getting to when you're continuously working in a lean environment. So we've talked about the business value, solution, and the Agile process right for you, whether it's Agile or Lean. Now let's talk about how the team slots into place related to this. Designed Agile has 6 essential team models that could be used in any one of these situations, but certain kind of teams play better in certain kinds of cultural and solution-based, value-based situations. Connecting these dots can be really helpful to making sure your value is maximized to the right solution you're trying to create, your Agile process is fit for purpose, and your team is honed to deliver that value using that methodology and creating that solution. So you have cross-functional teams, a team where diverse skills and expertise enable them to handle all aspects of a project from concept to delivery. Feature teams. These are teams delivering specific features or components of a product. They typically have all the skills they need within that team to create the end-to-end functionality of that solution. Component teams are where you need to organize different kinds of skill sets working together. Maybe you have a solution where you're going to market. Someone from marketing needs to be part of your team so you can manage that component of planning as part of your delivery. Streamlined teams are diverse because they have different kinds of skill sets aligned directly to the flow of the work, focusing on delivering value to customers directly. Enabling teams. Teams that can assist other teams by providing expertise. So this would be subject matter expertise, maybe coaching the team, supporting the team. They help build the capabilities the team needs so that the team can satisfy the roles they need to build that solution to that value statement in that methodology. And finally, sub-teams. These teams are focused on the complex areas that require really specialized knowledge. You might have a broad team, but then you have these sub-teams providing this deep technical knowledge or deep process knowledge. These teams are necessary when you're doing something very complicated, maybe something in engineering or something impacted by regulatory requirements, for instance. If you follow these building blocks through their natural progression from understanding what value you're trying to create, what solution relates to that value, how you use a methodology to deliver that solution, and how your team needs to work together. And if you want to know more about Agile delivery or the technologies that can help you with the methodology to deliver those projects, check out these videos. And I'll see you next time on ProjectSkillsMentor.com. Bye-bye, everybody.